it's Cody and welcome back to my channel. So today is going to be another Guide to Cosplay Masquerades series video. So in my last video I mentioned that I put up a poll asking you guys what topics do you want me to cover next, and the most popular one was how to do solo skits. But the second most popular one was how to choreograph for cosplay skits. So that will be today's topic. Cosplay skits and choreography have been a thing since the dawn of time. I don't know if you guys were around like in maybe like the early 2000s or like even the early 2010s, but there were a lot of cosplay skits where it was just short scene dancing. And I think it got to the point where some conventions full on banned certain dances because it was just so overdone. But nowadays, you know, there is a lot more variety in dancing and a lot more variety in how they're used in skits. And even then, here are my tips on how to choreograph dancing for a cosplay skit. Okay, so tip number one is to ask yourself this question: what are you trying to convey to the audience? The reason why I ask this question first and foremost is because that will heavily determine how you choreograph your dancing going forward. So, you know, are you trying to convey the character's storyline? Are you trying to convey a plot point? Are you just trying to entertain the audience? Ask these questions to yourself and you'll get a good idea of how to proceed going forward. Alright, so tip number two is to pick a song that matches what you're trying to do. If you're trying to just entertain the audience, you may want to find something, you know, lively and catchy. If you're trying to, you know, convey a story arc to the audience, you may want to pick a song that kind of conveys those emotions for you. If you're trying to convey a plot point, maybe find some music that fits the tone of the scene. A good place to start is your series soundtrack. You know, I love me some Kazuya Yuki, I love me some Hans Zimmer, some John Williams. So that's a good place to get started. However, don't just limit yourself to the music from the show. There is a whole plethora of music that you can go to, from, you know, pop to jazz, musicals, contemporary. There is a lot that you can pull from. So broaden your horizons, look at what you have available, and make your selection from there. Okay, so tip number three is to figure out, you know, what kind of dance moves do you want to use. Now, of course, there is a huge range of dance styles that are available all over the world, so I am not going to try to break down every dance style there is ever. But instead, I'm going to instead break all the dancing down into two categories. One is technical choreography, and the other is stylized movement. So technical choreography is like the stuff you see in like every dance video or every dance movie. Everything from like the waltz and the quick step and the foxtrot all the way to, you know, K-pop dancing, break dancing, jazz dancing, ballet, all that stuff. That's what I would consider technical dancing. Whereas stylized movement is more like doing everyday things, but just making them a little bit more dramatic, a little bit more styled. So let's say, for example, you know, the action you want to show is you are cleaning the house. Instead of just, you know, cleaning like normal, you can instead clean to the beat. So maybe like the first 3 counts you're scrubbing the floor. So 1, 2, 3, count 4, you can flick your towel rag, 4, then you can get up, and then 5, 6, 7, 8, you clean the walls. So that's kind of how you can do it. You know, that's how you can kind of like make it more interesting than just scrubbing the house. And it doesn't have to be just one style or another. It can be both. You can be doing like stylized movement for a little bit and then suddenly go into a pirouette. A good example of utilizing both, look up any musical and you'll see a good example of using technical choreography as well as stylized movement. Okay, so tip number 4 is going to be choreographing for groups. I have to say, as someone who's choreographed for solo skits as well as choreographed for groups definitely have an advantage in terms of being able to do more with less. I feel like when you're a solo skit act, you kind of have to like throw all the bells and whistles and do everything just to keep the audience attention. But when you're in a group, you can kind of divide it out a little bit more so everyone can kind of like, you know, take some of the burden and kind of like have something else to look at. So a couple things you can play around with is, for example, let's say formations, you know, maybe changing up where people's positions are, and kind of doing various things to kind of move people around. That can create an interesting thing for the eye to see. Another thing you can do is play with the levels. So, maybe some people are on the floor, some people you're standing up, maybe some people are even on like a chair or a bench. Again, that'll just create different points of interest for people to look around in. And also another thing you do is just trying to find different ways to utilize the moves. Not everyone has to be doing the same thing at the same time. You can have things like, have a soloist in the middle whereas everyone else is doing something else on the sides. You can have something like moving in canon where everyone is doing the same move, but they're doing it at different times in the song. You can also use the choreography to help play off the character's chemistry, especially if you're playing lovers or bitter rivals. There's a lot you can do with groups, and I just highly recommend, studying videos of just groups of people dancing to kind of get an idea of what you could potentially do. And finally, tip number 5 is to record your practices. Unless you guys were lucky enough to get like an outside choreographer, you guys are probably, doing the choreography and being in it at the same time. And when you're in that kind of situation, that can be a little tough to kind of see the full picture of how things are looking. So I would definitely recommend recording every practice that you do. So it doesn't have to be anything fancy. You can get a camera and put it on a tripod, or get like a friend to record it for you. That way you guys can just see the full scope of what you're dealing with, and then you can look at it and be like, oh, I like this here, or maybe we need to take this out, or maybe we need to change this. Just having that full view of it and looking at it from the audience perspective will really give you a good eye as to how the choreography is going and what changes you need to make along the way. Alright guys, those are my tips on how to choreograph dances for cosplay skits. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or you want to share your own tips, please feel free to tell me in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to this video if you want to see more cosplay content from me. And speaking of dancing, if you want to see me dance, please check out my dance channel. And if you want to support me even more, please feel free to leave a donation on Ko-fi. I'll see you guys in my next video. Until then, bye-bye!